Very, very interesting Paripreksh or perspective exchange. The topic is early childhood education and school readiness in India, quality and diversity. I would like to call upon stage in the next 2 minutes our lovely moderator, Faridah Bawani. She is the founder of Select Education and an ECA territory head Mumbai. Along with her, we have an esteemed panel. Mahera Goel, Principal Fazlani Academy Globale, Mumbai. Kaiser Bhat, ECA Territory Head for Jammu and Kashmir and the founder for Orange Preschools J&K. Pathik Shah, founder of ICANN Learning Centers, Ahmedabad and the ECA Territory Head, Ahmedabad. And Rekha ma'am, our Diplomatic Secretary at ECA-APER.
Yes, thank you, Rekha ji.
Our last panel discussion.
Secretary. All right, Azilia, thank you for this lovely introduction and holding forth until we wait for our panelist who is still missing. All right, so I am Faridah Bawani. I have been introduced already. I'm not going to go through that again. But I will begin this session today by making you listen to an audio. This is a teacher-child interaction that I want you to listen. It was a school that I was observing a few weeks back. The teacher was, the session was on poetry and rhymes. All right? I'm assuming that if you've been in early childhood classrooms, you know the potential of how much fun these rhyme and poetry sessions can be. But just let's listen. I'm not going to play the video. I just want you to hear the audio of the teacher-child interaction. Can we play that?
Zebra, you are a pretty sight. वो बाद में करेंगे, पहले ये लर्न कर लें आज, ठीक है? जब ये हो जाएगा, then we will do that, okay? Yes, Archie. Book लगी है, हाँ wait 5 minutes, okay? After this, we will take the tiffin. Yes, Archie. What? Monkey mask I will give you, उसमें मैं thread लगाने वाला है. I will apply the thread और आपको discussion के टाइम आप घर ले जाना. I will give you, okay? Yes. आज आप घर ले जाना, मैं आपको thread लगा के देती हूँ, but first read this, okay? चलो शाम. Zebra prancing in the zoo. You look like a horsey. Who painted you? White and black. Black and white. Zebra. You are a pretty sight.
Now, I can see smiles and I can see shocks on a lot of faces over here. All right. And I don't know if you all got what the children were saying. मुझे भूख लगी है, मुझे मंकी मास्क चाहिए, और उसके बाद मुझे घर जाना है, मुझे नहीं बैठना है यहाँ पर, right? So I want to, and this is just one anecdote that I am narrating, and this has been across a lot of schools that I have visited as well as observed. So what do I want to highlight here? I want to highlight the issue what the World Bank calls schooling without learning. Even though the gross enrollment rate, which has jumped from 81% in the early 2000s to almost 97% currently, basic learning levels of a large majority of children are persistently low, with a significant number continuing not to learn at their grade level. And this is according to the ACER report that I am quoting. This reflects an escalating early learning crisis, which is called schooling without learning by the World Bank. This is an emerging crisis where millions of young students face the prospect of lost opportunity. While this undoubtedly calls for an urgent action, the key issue is what should the action be? So typically, what have governments done across countries, and even in India? We tend to respond to these low learning levels by addressing this issue once the children are in primary grades. So that would mean mainly through investing more in effective assessments, monitoring, teacher preparation, revision of textbooks, assessments, improved physical infrastructure, and some more such examples. While these are valid aspects to consider, there is very limited discourse and reflection on identifying a more fundamental problem, and that is of readiness. And what is the relationship between readiness and the early years? Multidisciplinary research from neurobiology, economics, and child development have proved a lot of evidence on the concept of critical periods. Research also confirms that within the span of the first 6 years of life, the child goes through these critical periods of learning. And as we have established this link now between early learning and readiness, my first question to Mahera is, how does the quality of early childhood programs impact a child's school readiness in India? What are some of the key indicators of quality in these programs?
Good afternoon, everybody. Lovely to be here. I'm going to start by talking about something before I go on to the indicators. I don't know if anybody has heard about the marigold effect. It's called the companion planting. So I think early childhood is all about little kids blooming. We're nurturing, we're growing them. It's a little bit about gardening. Have you ever wondered what is companion planting? When a gardener plants a rose plant, he also probably plants a garlic pod next to it. You know why? Because it prevents and repels the bugs. Similarly, the marigold flower has those essential nutrients which can make any vegetable or any flower healthy. Now, why do I say this? Because there are lots of marigolds in your school. Look for them in purpose. Look for them in the culture of your school. Look for them in your learning environment. And look for them in your learning and teaching. Right? So in many ways, what are the marigolds or the indicators which Faridah just mentioned that would help? So remember the marigold. So I'm just going to run through a couple of them and then talk a bit more about that. I think the first marigold, which is very important, and in Rita Pearson's words, that every child needs a champion, right? And that is the teacher. So I think it's very important, and we've all been talking about this morning, professional development, right? It's very important that we have teachers who are well trained. That's your first key. And I second that person who said, is a teacher ready? Yes, she's always ready. A teacher is a teacher. Always learning, so she's always ready. Second, is our curriculum age appropriate? Are we still a sage on the stage? Are we still trying to control? And that's why is she not ready? Because we still like to be the sage on the stage. We are controlling. Where's the voice and choice we spoke about in the morning, even with the little learners? Play-based learning, I think we're all familiar with that, right? That's another indicator. Let's put play in everything. And we saw that in Shilpa's session. We saw that recently when we heard the last speaker. Small class sizes and individualized attention, right? The ratio, we need to ensure that in early childhood classrooms is at least 1 to 8 or 1 to 9. Inclusion, right? A lot is going to be spoken on inclusion. I think it's very important that we try and remove the barriers of learning. Let's not even speak about differentiation anymore. We're now in an age of removing the barriers totally. Resources, very important indicator. Again, today whatever we did in learning and numeracy this morning had a lot to do with the resources that team had prepared. So please try, and very, very doable resources, nothing rich. Let's go back to the old Gurukul. The resources are also very important. Holistic development. And when I say holistic, I go back to the values that mentioned. I recently did my master's at Harvard 2 years ago. And being an elitist institution, on the first day, the dean walks in and says, remember 3 things that Harvard stands for. The H in the Harvard stands for humility, being humble, and being honest. And I think those are the 3 values that I would ask every teacher to put into that curriculum. And then, of course, nutrition and health. Without food, the brain doesn't work. We have to ensure that every child is taken care of. Ensure that that snack box is full. Of course, a lot of schools, government schools have midday meals, but I don't know about the rest. And make sure it's nutritious, not junk. Have a menu for the week. I think for me, that's basically the indicators for really looking at a child's readiness to learn. So remember, Maslow comes before Bloom. And I think for me, that's that. In lieu of time, we'll move on to the next question.
Thanks, Mahera. I think you gave us some really key points about, what does this mean? You've spoken about small classrooms, the importance of resources, the teacher as a learner, play-based approach, and most importantly, the symbiotic kind of effect that can happen and can be leveraged in preschools. My next question is to Rekha ji. What role does teacher training, play, and what role does teacher training and professional development play in ensuring the quality and diversity of early childhood education? How can teachers be prepared to meet the needs of a culturally and linguistically diverse classroom?
Thanks, Faridah. How many minutes do I have? Time starts now.
Yeah, you have 4 minutes.
That's not fair. She told me 5.
I told you 5, but we started late.
Yeah, because we said we'll end on time. So thanks for that question. So teacher development and training is very, very close to my heart for a very simple reason. Being on the management level, I feel we really compromise and are really miser in investing in our human resources. We invest in everything, but we do not feel our teachers are that important. We talk about salaries, we talk about everything, but we don't talk about that human being who's in the class with our kid. So teacher training is very important. How do we do it is also important. Who is doing it is also important. Because like Rita ma'am said, ki ek conference leke, do workshop leke, everybody becomes a master. Because these, at the end of the day, we have to remember we are touching human emotions at all levels. The way you touch a teacher, wherever, on whatever position he or she is going to directly impact a kind of a university or a universe, I would say. Because the teacher touches the child touches the family touches the society, and we as a community, the teacher's role is very important. And when I say development, I'm not talking about ADHD mein kya karna hai or dyslexia hai to kya karna hai. I think we really need to look at the teacher as a person first and have a real introspection, reflection time in terms of workshops with them. We need to bring them on a level where they are emotionally stable, whether they have come by choice or by chance, it doesn't matter. They are in our profession, we have to help them as management, as seniors, as principals, and then we need to move forward. How do we do it in our culture, which is so very diverse? I have just one question to all my friends everywhere. Please reflect on how biased we are. And we are being very hypocritical if we say we are not biased. And I come from a family that had to leave 26 schools and come to a country and open only one school. And I never heard anger, I never heard bitterness, I never heard anything. And I never faced that directly, a partition of a country. But it affected me because people were talking that. How can you admit such children, and how can you do this, and how can you do that? And it started affecting me. Till my father and my uncle said, these are not kids who are the reason for the partition of the country. So why are you getting affected what people are saying? I had to work on myself, friends, so that I could see a child as a child. And believe me, it's work in progress always, because it's not about a community. It's about us. It's about how we see the child, And a dark child doesn't impress a lot of teachers. That is also a discrimination, that is also a culture, till you understand that we come from various parts of the country. And today with the world becoming so narrow, at least in Bombay, we have so many expats that we teachers have become very judgmental. Or they are from Korea, so they must be like that. Or they are from Cambodia, they must be like that. But what a Korean child or a Cambodian child or a Vietnamese child has gone through, we don't realize it, So I just feel we have to really work on ourselves emotionally, personally. And like ma'am said, like today's morning to now sessions, I have said all the answers we have got. We have got all the answers. But we just have to go back to our room after the dance session in the night and actually reflect. Have that silent time and take them. They were laughing at me. Harsha wants to see what I write in my paper. But I just wanted to write what we are going to do in this session because all the answers are there. I would say awareness lao teachers mein, attitude dekho teachers mein, and challenges dekho. Because every teacher's having a different challenge. So we as guides or management or as principals or something, we have to work on all these attributes, And आपका attribute मेरे जैसे नहीं होगा. I run a state board school. It's a 115-year-old school. Things are changing, times are changing, but we teachers, sorry to say, are not changing at that pace. So professional development has to be very fast. More and more workshops have to be organized. Investment in ourselves, our teachers, our fraternity has to be done on all levels. Don't wait for the government to do it. Government has a lot of money, they are doing a lot, but we all have to be a support system to each other, And just, if you're good in this, copy karo. They used to call me our very good friend used to call me the Indian Japanese, because those days Japanese used to copy anything. I said I'm the Indian Chinese today. If somebody does something nice, I tell them, I give them the credit कि इनके स्कूल में ये हो रहा है और मैंने copy किया है. And I implemented in my school. So just copy, because copying is the best compliment we can give each other. Collaboration karo. How can we meet the needs of the culturally? Linguistic. सीखो एक दूसरे की भाषा. Broken हो कि कुछ भी हो. But the Sindhis are only good for papads and these Gujjus are only good for doklas. We say that without realizing that's also a bias. We are labeling ourselves and we are labeling our friends. And our kids are watching that. They grow up with that. It's not a joke anymore. A lawyer's book, I was reading his memoirs, and his first chapter was on a lady in Punjab has done Sida Supreme Court. I don't know how it has happened. कहाँ से High Court से कैसे गया? That Sardar jokes should be banned in India. पर हम हंसेंगे कैसे? तो फिर हम लोग सिंधी पे कर लो, गुजराती पे कर लो, किसी पे कर लो. Because yesterday Harsha and I were discussing 15th August is coming and now everywhere in pre-primary we are hearing balloons नहीं use करो. बलून्स नहीं यूज़ करो, क्रैकर्स नहीं जलाओ, होली में कलर्स नहीं करो. तो फाइनली करे भी तो क्या करें? सो ट्रेनिंग हम लोग को सब चीज़ में चाहिए अभी. एंड वी रियली नीड टू नो हाउ. आई वुड से डिपेंड्स हाउ मच ऑफ ऑक्सीजन सूट्स यू, वेयर इट सूट्स यू, जस्ट यूज इट.
These are such key points that you brought about the need for quality professional development and teacher training. I also want to kind of take that example of what I made you all listen to at the beginning of this session, and I want to tell you what happened after this. This teacher came up to me and she said, "Ma'am, मुझे नहीं आता है." And ma'am, मैंने ना बराबर टीचर ट्रेनिंग सिर्फ 2 महीने की है, सर्टिफिकेट मिला है एंड जॉब है, पर आप सिखाओ मुझे एंड आई विल लर्न. This is the reality of so many teachers that is there in our country. They sometimes don't even have a certificate, they're not trained, but they have a willingness to teach, but they don't know how to teach. So these forums, you become like, you know, these little light bulbs that go out and shine a light and show that, you know, come, I'll teach you how to sing rhymes. And if you notice how that whole engagement went, it was exactly, I can just recollect how we were taught to say, read one line and repeat, read one line and repeat. But this whole idea of professional development and the need for that is so crucial, and it is only through this that we can get our children ready for school and they don't come back saying mujhe ghar pe jana hai. My next question is to Kaiser. How can technology and digital resources be integrated into early childhood education to enhance both quality and diversity in learning experiences? What are the potential benefits and challenges?
I had the answer, but again I just want to refer to Harsha ma'am only. मैं भी इनका status देख रहा था, तो I was thinking कि what I have learned, you know, out of this, what students are learning, and then her status was like, you know, they are losing this thing. So it is little bit contradictory. But you know, referring to your question, I have seen and researched a lot that there is some development, you know, in terms of literacy, language, and motor skills. But the thing is, like, there's a time limit. The parents, the teachers, they are not following that time limit. Otherwise, it's playing a very significant role. You know, the technology is playing a very significant role. If it, this is I have read in some of the research hasn't happened. If it takes teachers 3 days to, you know, recall some these songs or some rhymes and all that, but it takes only 2 hours for a technological app or any technology app to recall that for a child within 2 hours. So I can say it is playing a role, it's playing a significant role, but simultaneously, if it is not been like, you know, if it will not be processed properly, it's playing a negative role also. And same like the Harsha ma'am has put up some of the status, definitely that's going to, like, you know, it's making the comfort zone for the student. They are not able to do, a virtual world is getting created out of that. But definitely if it is using to the right way and the right applications, simultaneously, recently there are so many, you know, this virtual augmented, you know, applications are there. They are extremely good and well researched has been done on that, and they are playing a very vital role in different dimensions, even in the language, in the numericals also. So again, like, you know, the screen time is coming up into that, so it has to be managed properly.
So, Kaiserji, I want to ask you, when you're talking about, you know, technology, the assumption is that technology is synonymous with screen time.
Right.
Correct? But that may not always be the case. Are there not, you know, technological tools where movement-based learning can be done in, you know, classrooms? There are technological tools where kinesthetically you're learning about, you know, learning to write or addressing learning disability.
You are absolutely right,
Yes.
but they are not mostly commonly available as compared to, you know, the technology screen
Yes.
time.
Yes.
That is the problem. You see, you are talking about, like, you know, there are some thematic things through technology could be done, but that is possible in the school classroom only. But after that, when the student is again going to home, taking her mother's phone and all that, so that this is the, like, you know, it's still contradictory. Screen time and, you know.
Alright, great. My question to Pathik is, in a country as large and diverse as India, how can policy makers ensure equitable access to high quality education programs across urban and rural areas? What strategies can be employed to bridge the urban-rural divide?
Thank you. Who is the policy maker? We all are, I guess. And what we want to develop in them? What? I think character and content we both want. What we are developing in our children, I would not say our, that means who are coming to our school. that is considered whole India or whole world. Character and content is something what as a policy maker someone is looking forward to develop in these early years. Now when you are talking about urban and rural, so सबसे पहले very important is rural children are very much affected and fascinated about the urban, and urbans are thinking that they are not good, they are not satisfied or not comfortable to play with them. So many parents has the house rules के उनके बच्चों के साथ मत खेलो, वहाँ जाना ठीक नहीं है, मज़ा नहीं आता है. But being an honest teacher sitting here, you must have experienced some or another way that a child is coming from the different community or from the different city or a village to your school all of a sudden. Say as an example, बंदा अहमदाबाद से मुंबई चला जाता है तो उसको लगता है अरे मैं तो और बड़े मेट्रो सिटी में आ गया. उसी तरह से हम गांव से शहर में जाते तो we feel it that we have completely in a different zone, and many of us have seen that child is doing much better. So if we have that approach in our mind as a policy maker, whoever it is, me, you or anybody, so when we have that approach in us that yes, we want to work together, we want to make that bridge to be happen, then so very important thing is your own approach. Second thing is that mindset to adoption. I think we are misleading that we have all, I would say urban society has lot many knowledge than the rural. I'll give you a simple example. At the age of आप में से यहाँ से 50% लोगों ने observe किया होगा. How many of your school children can cross road by themselves, by their own, or sitting as a mothers here? How would you allow a 5-year-old to cross road by themselves? Please raise your hand if anybody is here and allowing a 5-year-old to cross roads by their own self. Is there anybody? Not me even. Think about the rural children. They will just cross road like this and you are just watching what is happening. And what is this? Skill. So they have a better skill. You must have noticed children coming from the different, again if I say urban children, their skills of eating. They eat by themselves for school. When the parents comes, we say, if your child will not eat, my teacher or IMN will help her to spoon feed. So who needs a learning? Bridge is both the side. If we have a technology, they have a skills. If we have a knowledge, they have the power to teach and self-learning. Observation, absolutely. So this is something very important content we look forward to develop and to make these bridge activities to be happen. And the willingness. School has to invest that time, or urban society has to invest that time to teach their children to adopt the rural community and their skill sets and their mindsets, so that you will believe as an equalism. अभी शुरुआत में एक क्वेश्चन आया था कि वाइंड अप कौन करेगा. वो बच्चे ने किसी को क्लास में पूछा, आई वॉज हियर इन द मॉर्निंग सम ऑफ द सेशन वेयर वाइंड अप आया, दीदी क्यों नहीं करेगी, हम बच्चे क्यों करेंगे. सो व्हाई वी आर टीचिंग दैट इंडिपेंडेंटशिप. But if we see every day that independency is happening, then it's best. So some of the suggestions I would say, because I am also not the one who is sitting at the policy maker's position, but as being one of the school owners or being one of the educator, I would suggest few ideas to all of us, because we are the one who is going to be changed, right? It is not someone who will decide कि कौन करेगा, तो वो टीचर है ही नहीं फिर. So it is our responsibility कि बंगाल के अंदर कुछ गड़बड़ हो रहा है तो वो कौन सी टीचर के पास से सीख के आएगा. स्कूल का नाम नहीं चाहिए, टीचर का नाम नहीं चाहिए, but it is a teacher who creates that value. So you have ingredients, you have material, but what to serve it is on you. Say as an example, you all are sitting here looking forward for a chai. Yes or no? Yes. धीरे बोलोगे तो बाहर चाय नहीं मिलेगी. Say yes or no? Yes. Right. But if I know people sitting here, these people love to have a sweet tea, these people like to have a black tea, and these people would love to have a without sugar tea. And if that has been served nicely, how would be a next session for you all? Very much energetic, very much powerful, because I know your taste. So if the policymakers knows the taste, then the things works out. So when our children or children coming to our school, they would understand that what is taking and what is giving, what is the adoption and what is the sharing. Adoption in terms of what we adopt from the urban situation and what we contribute to them, then the bridging will be easy. For those, we can have flexible time for those students to work. We cannot give them के 10 बजे से लेके 2 बजे का ही स्कूल है या सुबह 8 से 12 में बच्चों को स्कूल में भेजो. We have to change that policy. We have to keep the doors open. Okay, a mother is going to work and then mother cannot send a child at 2 years or 3 years old to the school. Then we have to open the school doors for the 7 to 9 p.m. in the evening. Then the bridge will come. Mobile, we can have the mobile vans where we can have the lots of teaching aids, which is probably too costly, too expensive, without adult supervision is not able to work on that. Those vans can go to them, and then that bridge, I guess, covered.
Sorry, you wanted to say.
Yeah.
Yes. Can I open the floor once we have, yeah, thanks. I will come back to you. I want to kind of, reiterate this whole example that you've given about the idea of readiness and the idea of preparedness. What is the difference? I was in Bangalore last week, and there was a social experiment that had just happened, where children from Adivasi and rural areas were called and were asked to mingle with children of IB schools. And a task was given to both these kids. They had to come up and create a song. Alright? Now these kids from the rural areas had never known of resources. So for them, it came very naturally. Chalo, you give the beat, aap zameen pe aise karo, and I will clap and you will do something. This is the rhythm, and the song was out in no time. But the children from the international schools were like, but I put on my piano, but I haven't got my guitar, and I need to write the lyrics in a particular way. And it really brings to mind even the mentality of lack and what is lack and what is more. And when we're talking about offering readiness skills and making sure readiness across the nation, it doesn't necessarily have to be with expensive resources. It can be right through anything in the house that is found. So, my next question to Rekha ji is, what is the cultural biases that might exist within early childhood education materials and curriculums? How can these biases be identified and addressed to promote inclusivity and diversity?
So, we went through a phase in our life where we were very attracted to foreign materials, including toys.
Yes.
And one of the greatest examples was the Barbie and Kent dolls that we all loved and our families used to get for our children, and suddenly our attitude changed. And in the bargain, years went by, maybe 25, 30 years, and suddenly we woke up and then they said, it's no big deal. And then swallowing those Barbie dolls, our attitude changed because we felt we need to have that kind of a figure too. And it's fine. The whole attitude and mentality changed. Our children are watching us. We talk about peer pressure, but we do not realize when I'm telling my spouse or my older son that I need this phone, my 3-year-old is also listening and watching. So what peer pressure is he going to go through when he's growing up? Or if I see a particular sunglasses and I tell my daughter that I would love to have these kind of sunglasses because that's in fashion, or I want to color my hair this color. We don't realize what kind of a cultural things we start from home, which go into our toys, into our bags, and they go on in every way of our lives. So when we are talking of materials in our pre-primary or early childhood days, we used to play with katori, chammach, we used to make artica things and all, but now it's a fancy, this color wants suit and that color wants suit. We disintegrated in mind and thought process somewhere. We lost ourselves somewhere. And now we are at a stage in our life when we are trying to focus on getting ourselves together. When I was listening from morning also, I was thinking, are we really integrating ourselves, or we are becoming chota and narrow-minded? I love my country, I love Khadi, I love everything about India, I love my community, but am I really inclusive? And when I'm saying inclusive, let's talk about economic inclusive. Today, a child coming to a Balwadi, Anganwadi and state board school or an IBB school has got a different kind of a toy coming in the school. And research has shown that teacher training also changes according to the funds available to us all over the world. So if funding is available to us, which is good and good amount, automatically our resources will change. You know, ECA has been propagating that we need to use the toys made in our own state, in our own city, and we need to mingle all over. Like I know yesterday a lot of shopping was done of puppets and keychains and Jaipur ka jo hai and all. But are we really going into the tradition of it and how it is? Ha, Baba, aaphi example ho. He's doing like this, you know he's the example. But I would love to tell the child the story, kahan se bana, material kahan se aaya, kyun aaya, kaise aaya. So again I go back to the teacher thing. So when I said that they need to focus on themselves and not on the skills, we need to be trained fully. We need to be trained usi waqt ke liye what is important. So like we played those, क्या बोलते हैं, क्या फेंका हम लोग ने आज? एरोप्लेन था, अच्छा ओके. हाँ, so paper aeroplane, तो board बनाने का. For me that is a toy, that is a resource in the class. It is a rainy season. But how many teachers workshop, the principal says आज चलो हम लोग board डालेंगे, आज assessment हमारा नहीं करेंगे, आपको weekly report नहीं देने का है. Everything in our classroom, in our school can be a resource material, can be a toy. The question that you ask, how can these biases be identified? And let's look into the curriculum, because you did touch that topic of curriculum. Let's see what our curriculum is teaching us also. History में से कुछ निकाल रहे हैं, geography में से कुछ निकाल रहे हैं, English में से कुछ निकाल रहे हैं. I belong to a generation which came up as rote memory, and I'm very proud of it. Whenever this argument ने कहा, I wouldn't be knowing my tables till date if I was not learning through rote memory. I wouldn't be knowing my poems by heart and quoting William Wordsworth if it wasn't rote memory. I remember my 7th standard speech I gave on the stage on Raja Ram Mohan Roy if it wasn't for rote memory. Things are changing, but how do we interlink all these things? So toys में भी जो आपने सवाल पूछा है and resources में, we need to not to me, okay, they are talking, okay, sorry. So the point is that we need to look into the materials available in our city, in our country. We need to collaborate with, अगर आपके पास resources ज़्यादा हैं, हम करें. And I was looking with her, and I know it's not connected to the question, but it's connected to both the first and second question. Our school is an English medium school, which is in Bombay, and in Bandra suburb there is a Urdu medium school. To get these biases and share the resources, we had Tuesdays for sisters. This is a girls' Urdu medium school. Every Tuesday morning, our school would start at 7, their school would start at 7, and they would not go to their school but come to our school, attend the school the whole day, and they would do everything in English, चाहे वो English हो कि history हो कि geography हो. What it took was 2 principals to decide that we will share our resources, we will share our knowledge, we will share everything. So again to us over here, we can do that. So an IB school can share with a state board can share with whichever, and we need to actually see that every toy, every resource that we get, we share, and it should be age appropriate, I would say. And ये biases जो color का है, वो है, वो हम आप ही निकाल देंगे, automatically आ जाएगा, ये conference के बाद आ जाएगा.
You touched some really important points. I know we have only 5 minutes.
What she was saying, can I just ask a question on that?
After.
We will miss
Let
out.
me-
Yeah.
I want to give them a chance.
Yeah. 2 boys
Yeah.
away. No, they're both away.
Yes. You will get literally 1 minute to answer. Alright, I would have loved to go upon
No,
it.
it's there.
We have 10 minutes.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
We have 10 minutes. Alright, we have 10 minutes. It's not bad.
We have a watch. Keep going. Don't waste your time.
Alright. So the points that Rekha ji mentioned, the idea of resources being shared and the kind of resources, not for example, a Balwadi getting a toy like a convection oven would really make no sense for that child, because he possibly is thinking this has more relevance to my life. But a chakla belan or something like that would have more relevance. These are the ways in which we are targeting biases and addressing them. My question to Kaiser ji is, what role do parents and family play in supporting early childhood readiness in India?
See, again, a few days before, I got a question from a parent, like, 20 years, 25 years before, there used to be no preschools, and how, children used to be much more intelligent and the thing is, like, before that, there used to be play schools. This was my answer. Maybe my teachers are over here, they can tell me I was right or wrong. I told them the preschools used to be before, but that preschools used to be at home. Because there used to be the joint families, so cousins and all together were playing, and whatever right now the new curriculum is coming up, the the mental development, cognition development, all that they were doing, right? But nowadays what has happened, like we are talking a lot about teacher development, teacher trainings and all that, but we are now never touching for the parental trainings. Because nowadays, I think now, the time has come, when there will be an admission even in preschools also, we have to work out on a triangle. School, parent and teacher. They should always be, connected with each other. Because what I have observed, like, now parents are using preschool as a, replacement for their time and all that. They sometimes see if you will start an unusual holiday, they are getting angry about that.
Kaiser ji, I want actionable. Give me 1 or 2 clear examples as to this is what parents can do to promote readiness at home.
Exactly. That's what I said. Like, there should be the trainings for the parents. They understand their responsibilities.
Alright.
Those new parents, the new 21st century parents, AI parents, just like he said, they have not been, they are not prepared to be parents. They need to give trainings. What are the roles and responsibilities for them? That is completely missing, right? And second thing is family inclusiveness. Family inclusiveness is very important. Like, there used to be, we are reading in so many these workshops and all that, whatever is happening in the family, the child is observing that and he is following up to that. Now, I think, like, this is like, I think we should emphasize on that, like, there should be a parental and family trainings in the school itself. When we are having PTM, that, and we are only talking about, please, his handwriting, her handwriting is not good, but you have to see, ma'am, what are you, as a mother, ma'am, what are you doing, for him, and please make sure that both the parents should be. जब पासपोर्ट के लिए दोनों को बुलाया जाता है, तो बच्चे की डेवलपमेंट के लिए भी दोनों को बुलाना बहुत जरूरी है, और उनको टाइम टू टाइम ये ट्रेनिंग देना बहुत जरूरी है.
With that note, I think we get the analogy of the passport. दोनों ज़रूरी है at home to provide the readiness. All right.
But we need to do something at curriculum में add करना ज़रूरी है parents की training के लिए.
I agree. Mahera, how can assessment methods in early childhood education be culturally sensitive and inclusive, considering the diverse learning styles and the vastness of our country?
So, since it's about assessment, I just want to again, with earlier, begin with a short story. I won't take time. So, there was a man walking and he saw 3 masons. He walked up to the first mason and asked him, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Nothing. I'm just chipping away this rock and I can't wait to go home." He came across the second mason and he asked him, "What are you doing?" And the second mason said, "Well, I'm really working at this. I like what I'm doing. But yeah, I can't wait to be home with my family." Then walked up to the third mason. The third mason was really busy looking at his little chipped blocks, trying to fix each of them very artistically. And he asked him, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm making a cathedral." What I'm trying to say here is, when it comes to assessment, let's look at the big picture. And why would I say that? Because not one size fits all. The example which Faridah mentioned also spoke a lot about growth mindset and fixed mindset, right? How the rural children just took to those instruments and the urban kids were still thinking, how do I work with them? And when I talk about big picture and assessments, of course, I can go on, rattle the tools and the strategies of assessment to alternative testing. But I think, what do we want to teach children? Are we teaching them community helpers? Are we teaching them marketplaces? Are we teaching them how a government organized? Or are we teaching them how is a system organized? Then be it any. Am I teaching them about sustainability, about water, plants, animals, or are we teaching them how we really share the planet? So really, what is it that we want to teach the kids? Even a scribble in a child would be either a story, a masterpiece, just something that he wants to express. So I think these are little things that we really need to be mindful about assessment. In terms of just regular strategies, I think if you're looking at doing away with traditional, of course, you can look at open-ended questions when it comes to early years. You can look at observations, which are very key. And with that, we do anecdotal notes, right? Really, so-and-so said something or so-and-so did something while observing the children on the table, which you can share with parents. At our school, of course, we do a lot of portfolios. We do e-portfolios of children because children really can't read and write too much at this age. So we capture them in action when they're doing a lot of inquiry learning. And then, of course, we have something called student-led conferences where a child's portfolio is built and we literally train children for a week to talk about their work to their parents. So I think these are just different ways in which we can really help children look at assessment in very different ways. It's not those scores on just one test that we saw, the FLN scores. That was just one experiment. What about qualitative data? Let's look at qualitative data when it comes to early childhood. So I think that's something I want to...
I think some great takeaways here, Mahera. Lots of actionables I can see. Especially if we can go away with the idea of having the big picture in mind when it comes to observations and assessments, and keeping that and creating your, assessments, observations, learning stories, all of that is being absolutely mindful. My last question is, Pathik, we live in a country where about 70 million children are between the age of 3 to 6 years. And we have 29 official languages. We have so many ethnic groups. And I want you to kind of tell me and explore the relationship between early language development and school readiness, given the context that India is a multilingual country and English becomes a second language to most families.
I'll not take much time. Very importantly, when language comes, it doesn't mean that it's all about your English and alphabets and phonics or speak the sentence in English. Language is more about a communication. It happens anyways, whether it is the sign language, whether it is the delivering a message by writing, painting, anything. So this all comes under your language literacy thing. And if you talk about Pranav is better, who must be having the perfect data, how many languages we spoke in our country. But we do not think about it. ECA, if we talk about the translations, ECA has done various publications in various languages to reach out to the maximum number of children. So that is our base practice at early years, that we need to make sure that make it a point that whatever language a child is knowing, and if you as a teacher doesn't know, try and research the basic words. Pani, water, susu, khana, don't do this, take this, give away, play, whatever. उतना केवल सीख लो और अपने बच्चे के साथ कम्युनिकेशन शुरू करो, वो अपने आप हो जाएगा. Making it short, please try to create the atmosphere which will develop the cognitive, social and emotional mental development in the classroom. That will help you out. Don't try to be the best school of the city or the world, but try to be the best school for the city or for the students, and then we will resolve this issue, I guess.
Great. Some great takeaways, Pathik. To end this discussion, I want to talk about the perspective of readiness and how it has been viewed so far. There is a malnutritionist perspective. What does that mean? It means that often using developmental milestones as the eligibility criteria. So in India, in most schools, we use that as a perspective, correct? If he's 6, then he needs to go to grade 1. Before, if he's 3, then he comes to. Now that is a malnutritionist perspective. It can work, but it also has certain pitfalls. So what does readiness mean? Does it only mean that the child can stand up, walk, speak, and therefore he can sit in nursery class? Or are there other readiness factors? There is another empiricist perspective. What does that mean? It means that can this child do certain developmentally appropriate tasks like identify colors, shapes, ability to count, recognize letters, this, that and the other. Which means that readiness is something that lies outside the child, which needs to be taught by families, teachers, school, and therefore prepares the child to be successful in a typical school context. Many current private schools also look at this approach. That is why we have the interview system, correct? Where letters aata hai, numbers aata hai, ye aata hai, so then you get the admission. We have another perspective called the interactionist perspective, which emphasizes the bi-directionality between the child and his environment. It draws on Piaget's constructivist viewpoint, which highlights a child's active role as constructing his knowledge while taking into account social constructivism, where children and the environment, they come together and the environment modulates itself to make sure that every child in the classroom is learning and ready. So I hope you go out and go away with this takeaway, where every classroom over here that you can impact is a classroom where you can make sure that every child is ready. Thank you. Yes. There was one question.
Two there were, I think.
There were two. One and
Yeah, you wanted to ask something, ma'am.
When you said sharing of resources,
Yes.
and you also said that the children of this state
Yes.
come to your school,
Yes.
which is a high school.
No, mine is also state board. It was Urdu medium school and English medium.
Do the children from even your school go to the other school?
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
Yes.
So supposing we do shared resources, which is like a state board school, and say mine is a IB school.
Correct.
Have you done any sharing? In
Yes.
Such, of course, with CAS program, IB does a whole
Yes.
lot of these sort of things.
Yes.
Where they would go to
We've done that.
other state
We have done
schools
that.
or other programs while you do CAS.
Yeah.
like
We have done. We have not only done that, Eco Mondial was the first IB school that I came across in Bombay, and one of the most expensive, and mine is a state board school. And I approached the principal and I said, we would like to learn about what IB is all about, and I'm talking of that time. And they were fantastic, and I did it under my banner called Education Today, Society Tomorrow. And we trained not only our teachers, but we invited all the schools that this is what we are doing. And they came and they had each class, where they taught maths, they taught history, they taught how in the IB methodology, they got their teachers, they got some of the parents to share with our teachers and other school teachers also. I believe, ask and you shall get it, And if you don't ask, then you're the loser. So मैं मांगते रहती हूँ बहुत, सबसे मांगते रहती हूँ. तो अभी आप लोग थोड़ा डर के रहना मेरे से, क्योंकि now I know you all, I'll be asking all of you,
Just to ask Jen.
Yes.
It's a great sharing when the state board children come here with sharing.
Yeah, what am I sharing?
With whatever,
Yeah.
because we have great resources.
Yes.
Training, anything we could do.
Yes.
Is there any learning for my teachers or my students who would go to the state board school?
Yes.
Would there be great interactions?
The greatest thing you learn in a state board school is the value. That is the biggest thing, value of resources in the sense of even a water cooler. It could be in sense of charts. I have picked up resources, what they have thrown to decorate my school. And mine is not a Zilla Parishad or that kind of a school. It's like a 115-year-old school, beautiful building and everything. But the resources that people throw in schools, I just pick up. And I pick up charts, I pick up everything. Because my span is with the villages also. We do a lot of work in villages. So I said, pheko mat. And this is what the children have learned. And when they've come for an exchange program, they've come only for a week. And I've had parents who have come and said, आपने पता नहीं क्या जादू किया. Our children are even wrapping the clothes themselves because we just speak to them about small things. Some of our children didn't have iron, so how do they iron their uniform? So I said, कोई बात नहीं, गद्दे के नीचे रख दो. Wash it, you have to come and clean. And the parents of IB school said, why did you? This has stuck in their head, that she gave us that. There are so many examples. I would say over here, visit each other's school. We are very proud of having international links. Visit each other's school. Be our guest. You can come and stay with me in Bombay. You can visit Bombay schools at least, So, और हम तो education on wheels है, कहीं भी बुलाओगे हम आ जाएंगे. Any questions? We are always there. Time हो गया, अभी time. प्रणय जी, time हो गया.
Separately पूछ लेना.
Over coffee.
Yeah. Separately.
Separate? Yeah, okay. Or you want to ask with others also?
No, actually, ma'am, it was a question where you talked about rural and urban gap. How can we fill it? So I think when we are talking about child are born with a similar brain, capabilities. Only they need right mentorship, coaching, and right set of resources like we are talking about. And it was a movie Super 30 where these children were they could crack IIT exams. So I think we as educators we need to understand child psychology.
That's true. That's the whole purpose is that why this is that we need to make sure teacher has to set up the environment, that readiness for the children to adopt everything.
Faridah ma'am told about this, that child and environment is equal to that. So
Yes, absolutely.
definitely they need the environment.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. It was indeed a wonderful and enriching panel discussion. Thank you so much. Yeah, so Suman, thank you so much for being so graceful. I would request Shobhan to come over and present. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you so much. All the panelists, Rekha ma'am, Faridah,